Today is Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. My name is Jorge Cruz. I'm interviewing Mauchese Franklin for Labor Studies Voces of a Pandemic Story Collection Project. This is a collaborative project between UCLA and Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please note, Mr. Franklin, that this interview will be placed on the Digital Public Library of America and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you would like to talk about, please make sure to bring it up so we can talk about it. Because we're not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting to be interviewed. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. So UCLA Labor Studies wishes to archive your interview, along with any other photographs and other documentation on the Digital Public Library of America. UCLA Labor Studies will retain copyright of the interview and any other materials you donate to UCLA Labor Studies. So the first question, do you give UCLA Labor Studies consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Digital Public Library of America?
Yes, I agree.
Do you grant UCLA Labor Studies right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes, I agree.
Do you agree to allow UCLA Labor Studies and the Digital Public Library of America to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, do you grant UCLA Labor Studies consent to share your interview and your materials with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for conclusion in the Voces of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read this little paragraph first, and then I'm gonna ask you the last 2 questions. So we have many questions in an online pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that information from the pre-interview form to help future research on this topic. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it to the Benson Library and NIU libraries, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members. So that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at the Benson Library and NIU libraries. So question 5, do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview and your public file available to research at the Benson Library?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, last question. On occasion, the UCLA Labor Studies and Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone number or your email with journalists?
Does my answer, does that have to do anything with the interview? If I say no, will that be an issue?
Yeah, so again, this is all like to your discretion, right? Like we don't want to like make you do anything that you don't feel comfortable with. But yeah, if you say no, then we won't be able to do the interview. But just so you know, it's like it's just gonna be your email that's gonna be, or your phone that's gonna be at the, like, kept in a secure place at the UCLA Labor Studies Department and the Voices of University of Texas at Austin. And it's just if in the future, perhaps a journalist would like to do a story about this, that they could contact you just for further information. But it's just asking you to consent to that if you were to do that. But again, if you wouldn't feel comfortable with that, then that's completely up to you.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we can continue with the interview. So just to start off, just kind of talk to me about what brings you joy right now.
God, life, love, just good positive energy that's uplifting, seeing people, smart people, yeah, just life and love. And music is really bringing me a lot of joy. Just I do music, so just creating and just being a creative. I'm an artist. It's just awesome. It's great.
How long have you been doing music for?
I started doing music when I was about, I want to say like 11, so like 4th grade. Um, but it's definitely transitioned. So I started on the saxophone and kind of like drums as well, like back in church.
Mhm.
Um, so I was playing saxophone and drums pretty much from like fourth grade to I want to say my freshman year in high school. So maybe yeah, like 4 or 5 years, and then stopped doing music for a while, and then kind of started doing music again back in college. So yeah, now I'm actually like writing and creating beats, doing poetry.
How would you describe your music? Like, what kind of genre of music do you create?
I would say I I would have to say rap, hip hop. Um, if I was to classify it in a genre, but it's really poetry. I'm really telling stories, so it's a narrative. Um, yeah, but rap and hip hop, I would probably say maybe a little bit of R&B, but it's very poetic.
What are some of the topics that you engage in or kind of discuss within your music?
I would definitely say my faith in God. Um, so yeah, my faith in God and understanding that we all have God within us. Um, I would say love, um, maybe like spirituality, um, and a bit of politics, I would have to say. Um, yeah, very political.
We had also talked about how you kind of talk about your identity as well. So the next question I want to ask you is, how do you identify? Do you identify as Latino, Hispanic, or Latinx, Hispanic, or how would you identify yourself?
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you asked that because I was thinking about that maybe like a week ago. Um, and or maybe not even a week ago, maybe a couple of days ago. I'm a child of God. That's like the first like thing that really comes to mind. But I guess that we like to put a physical to these identities that we hold near and dear. So I'm Black and Puerto Rican, Black American, Puerto Rican American. Um, so yeah, Latino, Hispanic. I don't really. It doesn't really offend me if somebody says Hispanic or Latino. Um, or if they even say Black American, because that's what I am. I was born here in the States, so um, yeah, really, I'm really a child of God, really. But yeah.
So talk to me a little bit more about those intersecting identities, right? You identify as Black, as American, as Puerto Rican. How do these intersecting identities shape who you are?
Um, it's interesting. It's confusing. It's tough. Uh, but it's a beautiful thing, I would say. Just being, you know, so I grew up, I went to like elementary school in like a predominantly like white, affluent neighborhood. So yeah, it was like me and like maybe two other like black kids. Maybe a couple Latinos, but like it wasn't like, oh, I'm this or I'm that, you know what I'm saying? Uh but I would say also say like confusing because at times I would just say like maybe I wasn't black enough for the black kids or I wasn't Latino enough for the Latinos. And me personally, I really like I said, you asked my identity and I said I'm a child of God. But I really like I'm very proud of being black. a Black American and where I come from, where my family comes from. But I'm also very proud of being Puerto Rican because there's not too many Puerto Ricans out there. And just, from being from a small island of 3 million people, and there's 3 million, it's not a lot of people. So just being Puerto Rican, um, I was really like attracted to this idea. And just my mom and my grandma, they're always having flags around, making arroz con gandules y pasteles y what is it, plantains, going to Puerto Rican festivals, dancing salsa and stuff with people. It was just an awesome environment. And I just loved it. And really, like, so being from Southern California, there's a lot of like Mexicans, and a lot of Mexicans and El Salvadorians. And there's like a mix of all the other Latinos that come from, Latin America. So, when I moved from like my elementary school that was predominantly white, I went from that school to a place in Pomona that was predominantly Hispanic, Mexican. And going over there, they look at me, they're like, oh, this dude is Black, or whatever the case is, but not really knowing or understanding that I am Puerto Rican until I tell them, or until they see my mom. And so, to like this confusion that I was talking about, and this toughness, sometimes, going, I want to hang out with, like, the homies and stuff. And, they would be like, this guy, he's not really one of us, or whatever the case. And it's funny, man, because I used to, my freshman year of high school, like, for, I don't know, I want to say like maybe the whole year, or maybe like 6 months, but I was listening to straight corridos, norteños, all that, just because that was just what I like to listen to, you know what I'm saying? And so, just like trying to fit in and be with people, because like it's, trying to be with people that I are loving and embracing the Latino and Hispanic culture, and like is different than Black culture, but it's not. It's the same, but it is different. Like dancing and music and customs, and I really like love Latinos, Hispanics. Those are my people. I love all people, but I just love it's really I want to say the essence, it's very loving, very happy, content with just a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So, that was kind of confusing going into that, you know, uh, but yeah, it's a beautiful thing being who I am, being Black and Puerto Rican, and I definitely gained strength from it. At times, I mean, a lot of the time, my strength comes from the Bible, from God, because God, He talks to everybody. But being Puerto Rican or being Black, Black people, Black Americans, ancestors went through slavery, and they tried to kill a lot of Black people, or they did. So it's like, okay, like in my head, a lot of times I'm like, all right, they try to kill us Black people, but I'm still here, and same with Puerto Rico, Tainos. And when Columbus came over, the changing of the culture and the changing and the what is it, miscegenation, or there's the mixing of cultures. They try to get rid of us, but Puerto Ricans are very resilient. And I draw strength from that. Just la grita la grita de Yares. Just having that in my head, and just man, just I gain a lot of strength from my identity. So it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. You're also a graduate student in Latin American Studies, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. What led you to study that, and just talk to me a little bit about like how you're a student.
Yeah. So basically, I didn't really know. what was gonna happen. Like, so my senior year, my undergrad, I didn't really know what was gonna happen with me. I just knew I had to do something. And I already was doing things with like one of my professors my junior year. I was going to immigration court in Adelanto, California, and he was going there as an expert witness on country conditions in Mexico and El Salvador. And so when he went on the stand to talk in front of the immigration lawyer, as well as the government attorney and the judge, he would provide such like good evidence, and he was strong in his position. And he just told me how having an expert witness on country conditions would exponentially help the migrants win their cases. Um, and yeah, and just one little thing. I mean, I know it's like they try to say that it's not Latin America, but Haiti. So when I was going to immigration court, there was a lot of Haitians. And so it's so crazy, the system. They would bring a different man than was listed on, trial for that day, just because they all quote unquote look black, look the same. They all had different foreign names, so they would bring somebody in and they would have to, they figured out that that was the wrong person. So they have to go back to the jail and get the right guy and put that back in. So it's just like the just uncoordination, like the unprofessionalism of things in the court. And just like how the government attorney and the judge treated people, as if they weren't people, you know. And seeing my professor and him being a expert on country conditions, it just was like, wow, he's helping. He's not really getting paid, like it was pro bono, but he was helping a lot, So seeing him do that, and just me not knowing enough about who I was. I didn't know who Lolita LeBron was until I was a senior in college, off of Asada Shakur's autobiography. And I was tripping. I was like, like, who is this? Like, I'm barely figuring out about her. And I went to my mom. My grandma was like, you guys know who this is? And I'm like, why didn't you tell me? But yeah, figuring out who she was and what she did, how she put her life on the line. And actually today in class, one of my professors introduced another Puerto Rican female, that was part of like the nationalist movement. And just the knowledge that I had wasn't enough. And I'm like, you know what? I need to go and speak to people, and I need to learn more about myself and who I am, so that I can be confident enough to continue pushing my messages of like love and stuff. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. So I know you're very busy. You're a full-time graduate student. You're a musician, but you also, before the pandemic, worked as an Uber and Lyft driver, right? So
Yeah.
if you can kind of walk me through a day in your work life before COVID-19, like how did that look like?
Yeah, so I would say, let me think. This was like, man, it's so crazy the time that's going. Time is so fast during this pandemic, and it's like all become like one big blob. Is crazy. But I want to say, yeah, I would wake up in the morning. You know what? I forgot something. I used to go to the gym, and once the pandemic hit, saw a little paper on the gym, and they're like, "Oh, you can't be in here." So I'm like, "All right." So yeah, I used to go to the gym and stuff, and work out. And actually, that was a good time when I was doing like my yoga and my stretches. It was on and off. I wasn't as disciplined as I should have been, but yeah, I was definitely like on that health grind. So yeah, probably like leave, go to work, at like maybe 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. Uh, and then just be working until like, yeah, I don't know, like 8 or 9, or do my, or when I had class, actually, I would have go work from like 10 to maybe 4 or something, or 2, and then um, go to class, and then drive all the way back from Cal State LA to San Bernardino.
Because that's where you lived, right? You lived in San Bernardino.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was commuting back from San Bernardino, picking up rides in between San Bernardino going to Ontario, Norco, uh, yeah, Long Beach, Orange, um, all throughout, kind of like the SoCal inland area. Just I didn't go to like Oceanside or San Diego, but yeah, definitely was commuting and driving a lot.
How did you first learn about COVID? Was it through your employer? Was it through friends, your family, or the media?
I want to say my family. It was either my family or the media. Um, yeah. Uh, Actually, my dad, he hit me up when I was driving, when I was working. He was like, "Hey, I don't think it's a good idea that you continue driving and stuff, because COVID." And I was like, "Nah, like it's cool." Like I was just downplaying it. I didn't think it was gonna get as big as it did. Um, and then my sister asked me to stop, and yeah, yeah, yeah. So family and media.
What would you say was your initial reaction? Because you said like your parents were telling you they should probably stop driving, but did you kind of take it as seriously back then?
Um, I definitely didn't. Um, I thought it was gonna be something like, what is it, the swine flu, or back in, what was that, like '09 or something, '10. Or I thought it was gonna be, something that was just gonna be taken care of, that it was gonna get, yeah, it was gonna get taken care of, but it didn't.
So, how did COVID impact your work? So, did you yourself decide to just stop driving for Uber and Lyft, or did they kind of like lay you off, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I think we started going on quarantine on, like, I want to say like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and the next day I went out to work. Um, yeah, I went out to work early in the morning, um, and that day was really bad. I was getting no rides. It was crazy. I think I was getting like maybe like $20 a day. Um, and I would like have it on, and I would probably turn it off at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, because nothing was happening. So I just eventually stopped. Um, it wasn't worth it, and I was also living with my grandma. So yeah, I had to make sure that I was doing what I had to do and find a different way of making money, while keeping me and my family safe. So
And so, how did you, I guess, since you no longer worked at Uber or Lyft, how did you supplement your income? Like, did you qualify for unemployment benefits, or what did you do to like make up for that loss of income?
yeah, I didn't apply for any unemployment benefits. Um, yeah, I just really kept God first. I kept on, yeah, I was just doing my best to keep him first, and it was difficult. But I knew he was gonna get me through it. I knew, yeah, I knew he was gonna get through it. It says in the word that this too shall pass, and yeah, it says this too shall pass. So I knew it was gonna pass, and um, what I did, I just did what I can do as an individual to figure out how I can get some money. So I just started applying new jobs and stuff, and was able to get some new jobs, and was able to continue working. I think a week and a half after it started, and I didn't stop. Just kept going.
So you said you had mentioned that you began working as a driver for Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah, I did.
So
Yeah.
what was that job responsibility like, and how was that? Was it an increase in demand because of COVID? More people were ordering on Amazon. Can you just kind of like walk me through a day working with Amazon?
Yeah, so yeah, I applied for Amazon. Um and there definitely was, and it's interesting because I don't really know what it was like before. So it's kind of hard to speak, but it definitely seemed like there was a lot of people ordering, and yeah, it had to have been because that's what the economy moved. It shifted because not too many people were going outside anymore, or getting things. Everything got shut down. So all like, yeah, just a lot of orders, a lot of boxes, a lot of drivers. Uh, yeah, just people were ordering a lot of stuff online because we couldn't go outside. Um, yeah.
You had mentioned that like what sounds like you're very religious. You have a strong relationship with God. Um, did that change during the pandemic? Did you find yourself going to like church more or like praying as a way to like kind of cope with what was happening?
Um, so the churches, they stopped as well. Their doors closed, so that was kind of difficult. I mean, churches definitely started going online more. And I think the church that I attend, their numbers just skyrocketed as soon as this happened. Like their numbers and views, like a whole bunch of more people started watching and stuff. Um, it's hard to say if I started praying more. I mean, I guess I did. I think I definitely did. And honestly, I just started speaking about him more to people. Um, because from my perspective, like I was scared, you know? I mean, like it was just like this fear of like not knowing, you know? And yeah, I definitely was praying a lot and going through scriptures in my head, and just telling people in general, like when we were having conversations, let's say at like a store line, a grocery store line, or just a small interaction, I would try to do my best to throw a little glimmer, a little stint of God whenever I felt the need to, or whenever He told me, um, just because of how difficult this time has been for so many people. And I would say that some of my fear definitely stemmed from some of my family members contracting uh, the virus, and hearing on the media about uh, Black people being what is it called? What was, I think P Diddy was talking about how Black people were uh, definitely like I don't know if they said disproportionately, but were affected more because of pre-existing conditions like heart disease or high cholesterol. So that was one thing I'm like, man, I gotta be careful, get my hand sanitizer, you know what I'm saying, get my mask right, wash it every day. So yeah, man, I would say back to like your question, I would just have to say my strength grew even more, or my faith grew even more during this time. And uh, yeah, I'm still developing it. So yeah.
And just real quick, do you mind lifting the camera a little bit higher so I can get your whole perfect? Thank you. Um, you had mentioned that some of your family members were affected by COVID-19, right? How
Yeah.
did you deal with that? And if you don't mind telling me, like, was it like your immediate family members or your extended family members?
Uh, it's extended. but I have a really strong connection with my family. Um, you can't really see, but there's a lot of pictures in this house of my family, and yeah, it means a lot to me. But yeah, so I had so I'll just tell you a little bit of what happened with my situation and my people. So in February, it was either February or beginning of March. So like right after the Super Bowl, one of my uncles that I have a lot of respect for, he's older, he's a black uncle. Um, he was living out here in Los Angeles, South Central. He passed away, just health complications. Um, they don't know if it was COVID, but that could have been a potential. Um, but yeah, he passed away. And I did not go to his funeral. Um, yeah, I did not go to his funeral because I was working. Um, and I didn't, yeah, so that happened. And then my aunt in Alabama, I want to say in April. Um, yeah, in Alabama, my aunt that I just saw like a year ago. And it's crazy too because it's funny, man. Like sometimes people like small things like are not related, but like I don't know if you can see this stain on my tooth. Yeah, so my aunt, I don't know if it's genetic or nothing. I don't know, but she has a stain on her tooth as well. And that was the first time I saw it was like a year ago. And it just, I don't know, it just made me like, oh yeah, that's my aunt. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just some weird little stuff. But yeah, I saw her and she's awesome. She was an awesome person. My aunt Lynn, her daughter, is in Chicago. But yeah, she got COVID and actually I'll tell you the story. So she got sick and the doctor said she wasn't, she wasn't that sick. So she went back home, got even worse, got sicker, and they said it was COVID and she ended up passing. Um, that was the second person that passed. Um, I think that was in April or May. Like I said earlier, man, this whole time is like, it's crazy. Um, And then I don't know if it was May or June, but my aunt in Pittsburgh, uh, my aunt Savannah, I saw her, I don't know, like maybe 8 years ago. Um, she got COVID and she passed as well. And all these people are Black American, that I'm talking about. Um, and it's crazy too because I didn't actually deal with the first two deaths until like 2 months later. Um, like it didn't happen, like I didn't grieve until like 2 months. I mean, I was grieving, I guess, the whole time, but I didn't let it out until after because I was so like, I got to get this stuff done. Like I got to make stuff happen. This is crazy, because there was a lot of confusion. Um, but yeah, so it was those three family members, and actually, like recently, I want to say like a month ago. Wait, it's August, so like July or June. My uncle Thomas in Alabama. So my aunt Lynn, that's her brother. My uncle Thomas. Um, my uncle Thomas got COVID. Um, but he's a survivor, so that's a good thing. So yeah, I got three family members that got it. One person survived. Yeah.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, and I really appreciate you telling us, like sharing with us that. You had also mentioned how you've been seeing how, like, specifically Black Americans, they haven't been getting the treatment, they haven't been getting the test, the COVID test. And you specifically mentioned how your aunt, I believe in Chicago, how she was sick and they had told her that she didn't have COVID. Do you know if they ever offered her a test, or what happened with that?
Yeah, so my aunt, she's in Alabama. It's just her daughter's in Chicago. Um, but I'm not too sure if they gave her a test at that time, a COVID test. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
You had also mentioned that you weren't able to necessarily grieve after their passing, but were they even allowed to do a funeral, or was that not allowed because of the pandemic?
Yeah, it wasn't allowed. Or it was just on video. I know for yeah, it was very difficult. It's been so interesting, man. I think there might have been a video one for my aunt in Pittsburgh, but that was a whole confusing thing because there was stuff going on with the family as well. Just family stuff. Um, but yeah, I think all of them might have been either like video or not at all. I know the one that I did miss, there was like a memorial type service or something. Um, I don't know if they actually buried him on that day. Um, but yeah, I think there was something like, I think that was back at the beginning. So like right before COVID kind of hit, they had like a little thing.
So, like, how has your attitude towards COVID shifted now that it's kind of affected you personally and affected um, multiple members of your family?
Um, so like I said, I'm a musician. I'm an artist. I made this song called Corona Who. I dropped it in May. Uh, it's one of my favorite songs. It's really cool. Um, but I said something along the lines, and I still kind of like feel the same way. I mean, it's so I'll talk about my song in a second, but it's definitely COVID is definitely serious. People are definitely dying. Um, and we definitely should be, washing our hands, doing the hand sanitizer, wearing the mask when we can. Um, but let me go to my song now. I said it's explicit. I'm not gonna really say. I'm gonna just say the essence of it. But I pretty much said Corona. She's not proving anything. And what I mean by that is I was talking about fear and stuff a little earlier. And there's a Bible verse, greater is he who is in me than he was of the world. And that was a verse that was resonating in my head, and I was reciting a lot during the first couple weeks because coronavirus is not stronger than the God that I have. The God that the creator of the heavens and the earth who can wipe that out. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, Corona, this COVID in general, what the media has done, how they portrayed it, it's a lot of fear. It's a lot of fear based. Um, and they just want you to keep thinking about it. I look at my phone, it's every second or third notification is a COVID thing. And it's really, they're trying to make you scared. They're really trying to make us closed off and not interact with people. And I understand like they're, the 6 feet distant, all that stuff. But I really think there's some underlying motives that they're doing. They're doing this for a reason. They're trying to scare people. They understand the power that we possess as a people when we're united. And what they're doing right now, they're dividing us and putting us in homes and trying to make us scared of one another. Um, and I don't think that's very yeah, it's I don't think it's very cool. We need love, we need unity, we need peace, and continuing to talk about that and pushing it on the news. It's relevant. You know what I'm saying? It's very important. It's the numbers continue to rise or whatever the case is, but continuing to push it, it's only getting people sicker. If you know what I mean, you know.
So you think some of the measures, as far as the stay-at-home measures, the lockdowns, do you feel like they're a little bit too extreme?
Um, I don't think they're so. I think I don't think that they're too extreme. I think that this should have been dealt with from the beginning. I think the government, the United States government at least, should have done something in the beginning because they were talking about what is it, military, what is it called, military rule, what is that, a martial law and all that stuff and whatnot. They were threatening it, but us Americans, we continue to push back and say, hey, hey, hey. And I remember talking to my family. I was like, hey, I told them, I was like, if they try to do martial law, I'm gonna be outside the next day trying to work, you know, because like as I'm young, I'm 24 years old. I don't have a great amount of savings, so I live like paycheck to paycheck, you know what I'm saying, day to day. So I was like, I'm gonna work, and I told them, but if they really impose a martial law, and if they really make sure nobody is going outside, you know, except the people that need to go outside, then like I would have been okay with that. But due to the fact that now that, I mean, we still have these stay at home orders, but people are not listening. And I honestly, I don't want to blame people. I don't want to blame society. I really want to blame it at the higher ups, because there was other governments in other countries, and right now today they're back to normal, but we're still in this position because the higher ups here didn't want to do what they had to do. They were more worried about their pocketbook than, you know, worried about us people.
So it's more of a lack of leadership, lack of um, leadership also from the federal level as far as imposing lockdowns and okay.
Absolutely. And I think it's so silly, and it is what it is. You know, it's federalism, but I thought it was so silly when Donald Trump, he told the states, he gave states authority to deal with COVID whichever way they wanted to. And I don't really want to compare him to any other presidents, but I would like to say that maybe if we had somebody different, things would have been different, and he would have taken, or he or she, yeah, she would have taken the initiative to go ahead and make sure that their citizens are safe, you know, and, you know, things are good. But, you know, he cares about money.
So let's talk a little bit about that too, because not only are we going through a health crisis, but we're also going through what some would say a political crisis, right? We have an election coming up in November. And we also, within the past couple of months, we've seen the uprisings throughout the country with the Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter movement. How do you see all of this like connected and playing out? Like, what are your views on that?
Um, yeah. So my views on you said on how it's connected. Can you say it again?
Of course. So like, have you yourself participated in any of the BLM movements? What do you think about the BLM movements? So let's start there. Let's talk about the BLM movement.
Okay, so yeah, I haven't protested. And I'll just be honest. The reason why is because I don't feel like my emotions, this has been a very emotional time for me, and just my politics in general. I don't think it would have been a good idea for me to be going outside and participating in any protests, because my personality would not have, it wouldn't have been a good situation for me, or yeah, it just wouldn't have been a good situation for me. So um like I said, I do music, and so I put a couple freestyles out on my Instagram page. I also did a compilation of videos that I put on my Instagram page that I hope to put on YouTube soon, and I put it, I coincided the videos and clips that have been going on, that have been circulating in this time. You know, a lot of the Karens that are acting out, as well as the people that are going and looting, and just a lot of people that have died, you know, Trayvon Martin, men that have gotten their ribs broke because of police brutality, and people that gotten ran over because of police brutality. I coincide those videos with the Martin Luther King speech. I think it was about creative protest. His speech, creative protest, and I edited it. But yeah, I made a little video about that and how dark this period is, and how we're very lost right now. And I'm not saying that the BLM movement is lost. I'm just saying in general, like, there's no unity. We can't seem to, I mean, there's a bit of unity, but for some reason, it took so long for justice to be served. And I don't really even think justice has been really served, because these attacks are still continuing. Actually, a couple of days ago, I don't know if it was Minnesota or Wisconsin, but two policemen, it was a black man, he was trying to go into his car. Two policemen shot this guy 7 times in the back. So it's still happening. So really, like, I also did just put out some art, and I got it from another artist. I told him the idea that I was looking for, and he presented me with something awesome, about just abolishing the police, you know, that idea of abolishing the police. And that's very important. And I really think that we need to start recognizing, and actually, I gotta say one thing. So the first time I learned, or back in, my senior year out at UC Riverside, Professor Benjamin Newman, he told our class that the first policing group, militia, was to corral slaves. So from the get-go, from the beginning, policing has been to target people of color, and be like, hey, what you doing, man? Like, what you doing over here on these sides? You know what I'm saying? You need to go back over there. So yeah, just we need to assess that, and we needed to make a decision, like, okay, like, the police, they go into certain neighborhoods too and harass people. So we need to deal with that, and we need to deal with we need to deal with that. So I don't know. I think we just really need to be more unified and seeing each other's points of view, so that we can come to a consensus and move forward. Because there's people that don't want to abolish the police. And actually, I think it was in Minnesota or somewhere where it was so sad. It was a scene that I put in the video that I was speaking of, that the mayor, he didn't want to abolish the police. And he was in a group, he was at a BLM protest, and he said he didn't want to abolish the police, and that's all right, you know, that's his view. But when he was leaving, everybody made him feel bad. People were flicking him off, you know, doing whatever. And to me personally, that's not okay. You know, we need to be unified. Whomever, if they don't believe in that, let's talk to them. Let's have a nice conversation, and make them, and just really, be empathetic, you know, and understanding, so that we can all, so we can all move forward together. Because I think we all really want the same, like, every person really wants the same. We all want happiness, you know, and I mean, we all want to be happy and have love. So if we can all just recognize that, and we all have differences, then maybe we can get a little bit closer to peace and unity. I guess the BLM movement itself has been so profound, and it's been so huge. And I never thought it was going to get this big. I remember having a conversation with my homegirl, like 2-3 years ago. I told her I didn't think that BLM was going to be as big, or was going to be able to get as big as the civil rights movement back in the 60s and stuff, just because of leadership. and that was my thoughts, you know, and now it's here, and social media has created this median that you don't really, I mean, yeah, social media just blows things up, you know, makes things like, you know, it just spreads, you know, information so quick, and there's been so much support, you know, internationally, and as long as we continue moving forward and get justice and have some goals that we can all agree on, we could possibly move forward.
Yeah, thank you. So it's also interesting.
Rambling a whole bunch.
No, that's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. So I mean, it's interesting that this is also happening in the middle of a health crisis, right? Almost an unprecedented pandemic, and we're still seeing, right, the same thing. We're still seeing the killing of unarmed Black people, and I think it's also kind of raised this level of urgency, right? Of how could this still be happening now?
Yeah.
And so, where do you see that going in the future? Like, are you hopeful? Like, you mentioned a lot about, like, moving together, unified, and like not necessarily shaming people, but working with people.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of hope. Um, I definitely, yeah, like I mean, this world sucks, you know. There's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of oppression. And actually, I just wanted to say one thing before I start talking about that more. I think this time has, yeah, it's been very scary, and it's crazy because there was one time, or actually a few times during this whole situation where I actually feared more for my life than I have ever, just for being who I am, just for being born the way I was born. Like there was one time I was trying to take a nap in this parking lot, and like right before I was closing my eyes or whatever, I was thinking in my head, I was like, what if some police officer or some dude just comes over here and he's like, he's asking me why am I whatever. And I remember like waking up, you know, like twitching, like when I was dozing off because I was like thinking about that. Um, but I got past that, you know what I'm saying? I'm walking more in confidence, but I definitely have a lot of hope for uh us as a society, us as a country, us in the world, because I think it's very evident that love persists and love is everlasting and hate just gets burned up. Um, you know, I want to say, yeah, so the Nazis, um, you know, I don't know how long they were running around for. I mean, they're still running around today. They're called neo-Nazis, but the Nazis in Germany, I don't know how long they were lasting, but you know, they're not here anymore. They're a different form, you know, they're hidden, but they're not really at the forefront because the world has said that's not okay. You know, it took them, and it's crazy because it took them a while in I think it was World War II. It took everybody a while to actually say, because Germany was this powerhouse, you know what I'm saying? They was getting money, they was making, you know, doing what they was doing. Um, but I really do think, and I think it's showing right now, just financial institutions in general, how this system is flawed, and where young people, millennials, and the people that are behind millennials, I don't think they're really gonna want to take it. And I would have to even say people, maybe a couple people in Gen X, they don't, they're not you know, they're not okay with what's going on, because a lot of us, we grew up with having friends that were colored, having friends that are part of the LGBTQ community, friends that are different, that are have special needs or are handicapped or whatever the case is, that are albino or something like that. Um, and just like embracing people, you know, just taking everybody as they are. And this might just be my perspective, um, but it seems like we're becoming more caring and more loving. And I definitely have hope. We just got to get some people out of office, get some different different backgrounds in there. You know, we started with Obama, you know what I'm saying? In the United States, putting a little black dot, you know, in this white sea. We'll see next what happens. But yeah, I have a lot of hope, man. I mean, it's gonna be tough, it's gonna hurt. We might see have a lot, like change happens, man, and I think good things are gonna happen.
Thank you. Sorry, you cut off in the end a little bit, but I want to get your
Oh
thoughts on that a
snap!
little bit more. It was just like the end, so don't worry about it. But
Oh no!
what are your thoughts on the election coming up the next couple months? You mentioned Kamala Harris.
Oh snap! My internet connection is trip. All right, my it's all crazy.
That's okay. I think I can hear you. It's just the video that's a little bit frozen.